Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Inspired Action Life Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Baldridge, and today we're coming back, and I am going to be continuing the series of Success Leaves Clues, where I talk to people who are overcoming the obstacles they've had in their life, or they're pursuing big things that they have absolutely no idea how it's going to work out, why they're even doing it, but they just feel called to try. So I feel like this series is beneficial for those of us who sometimes don't have the courage to jump in the game, but you got this really great idea that's cooking, and you really feel like the world needs one of those, but you're too worried, scared about the failure and all those things before you're jumping in the pool, and that's why you don't. So you know what? This is your permission to jump in. What do you have to lose except more time, right? So we're going to highlight my friend Tierney Shirrell today, and she's doing something amazing too, and in a very blessed endeavor, we can say. She is the founder of the Live Bold movement, and currently they're based out of Phoenix, but we would like to see that grow into a movement for everybody everywhere. And what it is it's a prayer powered personal growth community for women, basically emboldening them to follow their purpose, God's purpose for their life. Now, I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole because I'm going to let her do that because she's kind of the expert. But I'm looking forward to this conversation because where iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And I think it's just really important that we all talk about our faith and how it emboldens us together, because there's big things that haven't been created yet because we're not doing that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Tierney. Hello, Tierney.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this one because, again, in this world of podcasting, as you know, and in the world of just even entrepreneurship, there's some faith based, there's some that's kind of spiritual based, but maybe not Christian based. And so, but we all believe the same concept that there is that divine power behind it. And why we might believe it's God, others will call it the universe, but there is a power that kind of is driving things. And so I know that you're on the God Christian based type of this, and so let's roll. I want to hear about how. Let's start at the beginning. What's your story? Where'd you come from? How did you get to this point? And what made you come up with this idea? Tell me a story.
Absolutely. Wow. So I know you said we're based in Arizona, and that was a dream of mine for many, many years. I'm actually born and raised in the Midwest,
Oh,
uh, Northern Illinois, almost in Wisconsin. So
okay. Midwest
yeah, and
girl. Yeah.
yep, I know. I call us Midwest escapees because,
Yes.
you know, some people love that cold and the changing of the seasons. That's just not me. I fell in love with the heat and just the sunshine. Yes, exactly. I knew this
Mhm.
was
I'll be chasing you out
so,
there too. Same place,
yep.
same bad time. I can't wait.
Yep. Yeah, that story in and of itself is a whole nother podcast episode on its own, just of us getting out here. So we've only been out here for it'll be 5 years next
Oh
month.
my goodness.
So
You
yeah,
made
so
it
we
work.
actually are pretty new to out here, but I truly feel like it's absolutely home. And it's been a huge contributing factor to me finally stepping into my calling and starting this community because, I just started being surrounded by all these high achievers and ambitious women. And I actually reconnected with a friend who I grew up in that really tiny town in Illinois who actually lives here.
Oh,
And so, yeah, God just works in such cool
so
ways.
amazing.
Um, but just to summarize, kind of a long story short of how I got, so I was always raised in the church, but I never really had much of a relationship. It was kind of more a religion about like checking the boxes and going through the motions
All
and
the
all
things.
that. So,
Yeah.
and, I went through a whole phase in my, teens and 20s of being very far from God, from my faith, from my values, like everything, it was just a really, really dark time in my life of a lot of depression and mental health struggles. And so when we finally moved out here, I was coming out of a postpartum depression with my third child. And
Yeah.
that was a really, really hard time for me to get through and overcome.
Yeah.
And through that journey, that's kind of where, I started, God started bringing people in my life, that were like pouring into this other side of me that had kind of been dormant for a while,
Mhm.
it's just that high energy, that, big dreams, all that stuff was already in there,
Yeah.
but it had been just oppressed for so long, like I said, through.
Dirt thrown on it, right?
Yes,
Like,
right. Yeah,
there,
not
but
not the soil that was gonna to feed
yeah,
it, right? It
right.
was the burying of it. And just we talked about this a lot in the first way that we connected through our mastermind of,
Right.
feeling that like you were always too much, and kind of like having that personality like tamped down, like, don't dream too big, don't do too much, don't go too far outside the box,
Yeah.
and, you just tamp
Yes.
down so much of yourself. And I think part of that contributed to, the mental health
Oh,
issues that,
without a doubt. Yeah.
yeah. So I kind of came around to where I thought I was going to be stepping into entrepreneurship in the mental health coaching world. And, I got a certification and I kind of started, uh, doing that a little bit on a volunteer basis and things. And I was really realizing that the one-on-one mental health coaching was not really what I was being called to, but it was a stepping stone, right? Like I knew
Learn.
I wanted to pour into women, and I just, wasn't sure exactly how that was going to come to fruition, but
Right. Well,
yeah,
it is interesting. Well, I'm going to stop you for 1 second because
yeah,
I feel like there's an important little piece of information that I feel like I need to press rewind and go back to. And that is the very first big bold move of you moving to Arizona. Let's face it. A move by yourself with no kids is still like, oh my God, should I be doing this? Whatever. But a move with a family, kids, what is our money situation going to be? All of that, like a couple years ago for me, that would have been inconceivable. So I feel like that has to be part, the breadcrumbs that God always
yeah,
leaves the breadcrumbs, right?
yep.
So like why and how did you move without having to go too far down the rabbit hole? But I know you liked Arizona, but how did you finally make it work? Or did God provide? Or what did that look like? How did
Yeah,
that
all
go?
of the above, basically. Yeah, so I fell in love when we came out here on a family vacation when I was probably like 8 years old.
Mm,
And it was just that deep knowing of this is home, like this is where I belong. And I knew it. And, it was just a very widening path to get here. I, thought I would go to college out here.
right.
But, at that time I was in love. I thought I was, so I
Yes.
stayed in the Midwest
Okay.
to
Yeah.
stay in that relationship.
Mhm.
And and then I was going to come out here as I graduated college. And my background is in accounting and finance. I got an
Oh,
accounting degree as I'm a CPA, but so at the end of college, I'm getting ready to sit for the CPA exam. And they changed the requirements from 120 credit hours to 150 credit hours. So now I needed to get my master's or at least go for a whole nother year or
oh
two
my God,
to
I
be
didn't know that.
even be
Okay.
able. Yeah. So I went right into my master's and I was like,
Still in
okay,
Illinois. In
yes.
Illinois. Still. Okay.
Yep. And I'm like, okay, as soon as I graduate with my master's, I'll go out there.
Mhm.
Well, I do an internship during my master's program
Mhm.
and I meet my now husband.
Mhm.
So, and I literally on the first night we met, I was like, just so you know, I'm moving to Arizona. Like,
Yeah.
so
Just
whatever's
so we're
happening
all
here,
clear. Yeah, no
yeah,
surprises.
yep. So yeah, nope, didn't happen. I was in love. We,
Mhm.
we get married. We were like, oh, we're living in the city. We're two young kids making, both in the accounting world, making a lot of money
Oh
and
yeah.
no kids. And we really just start uh kind of figuring out, okay, what do we want to do like long term and stuff. And I knew I wanted to be in Arizona. And he really had a lot of deep-seated fears and things about, like, leaving that comfort of the Midwest, and all our family was there and all the things. So,
Mhm.
and we weren't really in our faith at all at that time.
Right.
We were, partying lifestyle, going out in the city, all
Yeah.
the things. And so, but I think that was really kind of the start of us getting into the personal growth and development world, because,
Mm.
recognizing that that's what was holding him back. And it caused a lot of problems in our marriage. And, full transparency.
Right. Well,
We
who
decided to,
doesn't have
you're
those
right.
times? Well, I mean, come on,
Yeah.
really? Like we
But
all,
so many people don't talk about it,
I
right?
know.
And
Well,
we've
yeah,
been
it's for
super
real.
open just about, we we ended up moving actually to Indiana for a few years.
Oh,
That was kind of like a strategic move to pay off some debt, and, cost of living from
cost of living much cheaper
living in Chicago, and
in
because we were
Chicago.
in the city, yeah. And
Exactly.
um moving there, kind of we started our family, and the
Mhm.
whole thing was like, oh, we're going to move to Arizona after we've been there for a couple years, and we kind of paid off the debt and got a little more settled and matured, grew up a little bit. And we ended up coming back to Chicagoland, went in the suburbs this time because now we had kids, and I
Right.
wasn't bringing in an income anymore. I stayed home with my babies. And
Yeah.
um, but he was still very much in that scarcity mindset of, not being able to go yet. So,
I get it. I get
yep.
it.
Yes. So we moved back, and this time we were in the Chicago suburbs, and we ended up staying there. The deal was, a couple years, and then we'd go to Arizona
Oh
finally.
yeah. Still, we're
7
getting
years later, yeah, 7 years later, we're still not there. And that's really when I think everything kind of just came to a head. It was like, and we can look back now in hindsight and be like, okay, yeah, we weren't listening
there.
we weren't in our faith, we weren't connecting in our marriage. I had, like I said, the postpartum depression with my third baby that was so, so severe, to the point of suicidal thoughts. And
Mm.
it just, everything came to a head. My husband's job was awful, and it was just this soul sucking experience of
Oh,
him knowing that he wasn't in the right place, and
yeah.
like everything was basically falling apart, and it
My
literally
gosh.
had to get to that point of, you know, everything was going wrong, and we need to face this. And so I, started getting help for my mental health issues.
Mhm.
He started really digging into his faith and his limited thinking and all those things.
So
And
he
so we,
recognized limited thinking because now that's another little nugget I want to throw out there. Okay.
yes,
Because that's something we need to talk about a little bit there, especially in particular to your journey and the fact that it's Christian based, is that
yep,
that limited thinking is not spoken about a
yep,
lot. That's not really highlighted because it's part of the suffering. You must suffer, and like that whole journey of you're better if you suffer, and all of these things
yep,
that can kind of throw lots of us off the track a little bit because somehow
yeah,
suffering was supposed to be the reward, not being happy. You know what
right,
I'm saying? And so that's really interesting that he knew that, like, the
yep,
limited thinker, that you two knew enough about something about personal development, maybe not, Christian development, because it's part of it, but it's just not vocalized.
yeah,
um so I just think that's interesting that you knew
yeah,
that that's a thing, the
yep.
scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Well, I know I joke that I had like a growth mindset before that was even a term. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah,
didn't like it was just, she's crazy. She's a big
yeah, she's
dreamer,
not, she's a
wild, whatever.
dreamer,
Like,
dreamer.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yep. And
all
come
of
to
it.
find out, no, that's just a growth mindset. Like, that was ingrained in me. And
Right.
like I said, now we have like these terms to actually
Yes, we
define
can apply
what
to,
it
oh, that's
is,
what I am. Okay,
right?
look at that.
Yes. But yeah, we clashed so much on that because I was always, just, yes, full speed ahead, let's do this. And he was like, no, we can't do that. What are you talking about? And man, did God work on his heart, and he just full circle came, into, and so what happened is he got fired from that job.
Okay,
That
that
was,
was God's
right,
resurrection. You
100%.
already know how that works.
Yep. Yep. And he started looking for jobs out here. And so, yeah. Yep. So
No one would ever cheer a firing, but we would. Yes.
I
Yes.
know. Well, the best part is like this is fast forwarding into another part of the story, but actually, because I joke, I'm like, how many accounting jobs do you have to get fired from before you finally actually live into your purpose that God
Yeah.
made you?
Yeah. I'm just
'Cause
asking. Just
yes,
asking. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
he's now he's like a full-time like Christian life and purpose fulfillment coach and all that, and he's just
I did
thriving.
not. Oh my
But yes,
goodness. Boy, you kind of, got to the ending before I was ready for that. I did not know
I
that.
know. But I
Continue.
had to mention it because the last time he got the job that he got out here, he
Right.
also got let go from. And when he
Because it
told
was
me,
accounting.
yes, when he told me, I said, congratulations.
You've just been promoted.
Woo!
Now
Yes,
that you promoted in like the purpose, you
yes,
finally got rid of this. Can we put this to bed now? Can we put
yep,
accounting to bed? That's not where you're
correct.
supposed to be. So I love it. So you guys came out because of the accounting. He was able to secure employment because you were
Yep,
still staying home. I know
yep,
I did too. And so I
yep,
felt like I didn't have a lot of say so,
yep,
over the finances, big things like that. I had some
right.
influence, but not
Yes,
final say so.
yep,
And so he was able to secure employment because of God's intervention,
100%.
his
Yep,
redirection. And then, so that was a big faith move. And so his faith was probably growing as well because he
yes,
saw that, okay, God, you clearly don't want me here. So,
yep.
so from there, you moved out here and he's still kind of feeling around. And then when did you start to have this like understanding where this idea that you're now currently kind of on with germinating? Like how did that look? What did that look like?
Yep. Yeah, that actually just started, like I said, through connections with people. Is that the first people we knew out here was actually, like I said, a friend that I grew up with in that small
Oh,
town in
crazy.
Illinois. And I started putting myself in rooms, going to events and really when it started to to grow like that, the vision that's happening now was having 2020, so the event was not in person, but I hosted a watch party for Powerhouse Women
Oh,
2020 when it went online. So yes,
you
that's
did. So you've been around Powerhouse for a while now.
I have. Yep,
So
yep,
how did you find that? So I mean, again, God, I'm sure that's how you found that.
yep.
But I mean, because obviously that's not part of like the church community, but just through other resources and connections and other rooms you would put yourself in, you got connected to Powerhouse.
Yeah, well, the friend that I grew up with, like I said, that lives
Oh,
in Arizona
she's the
now,
one who
she
connected.
is friends with Lindsay, the founder of Powerhouse, and introduced me to her. And yeah, so and I think, it's funny because other people will see things in you sometimes before you even see it,
Absolutely.
So yeah, God was just bringing these people around me, and I started to notice, the connections that are made when you get in these rooms with other people who it's not so crazy that you have a big vision. It's not, it's they're looking at you and being like, yeah, do that. Not looking at you like, what are you nuts? You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, how
and
are
you
you going
just
to do
all
that?
of a sudden,
Yeah,
yes,
getting
yep,
it, bring it right down to earth. Like, well, how are you supposed to do that? And
yep,
so it's like that buzz crunch, but they're just going with the vision. I
yeah,
agree. It's like that alignment. You feel
yes,
like you said, you feel like you're at home because not only now you're in Arizona, and
yep.
now you're getting into rooms where you're not as like the circus act weird person as you were maybe somewhere else. Exactly.
Yes.
I get that. Oh, you're not a clown. Oh, good to know.
Yep.
Good
I
to know.
love that you used that term like you were home because that it's funny because like the thing that just popped in my head was like it was home like physically in like the location that I knew I was supposed to be in, home back to my relationship with God and
Hmm.
actually knowing who I belong to, and home in the communities that I was then all of a sudden being part of. And like you said, and it just like when you start to live into that, you just
Come back
everything like
home.
aligns. It
You're
really
coming
just
back home to
aligns.
yourself.
So yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems like what your tagline is, seems,
Right?
just come back home, coming
Yeah.
back home to you. because you
Yes.
were always supposed to be here. Now, see, I feel like that's interesting. And again, anyone who listens to this, you have to understand that, look, she had this seed that she always just knew that she knew that she knew that she knew that she knew she should be in Arizona. But why in Arizona? Well, there was probably some divine appointments.
Mhm.
Those spiritual breadcrumbs are the stories that just get me jacked. I mean, I love hearing those breadcrumbs because they matter, because we are asleep at the wheel when we are living our lives. We don't pick up on the breadcrumbs, and those
Yep.
breadcrumbs have little magical drops in each one of them, and they're
Yep.
like the golden link that links us to the next link in the chain that gets us to where we're supposed to go, right? And so I
Absolutely.
love that you knew that. So people, if you know something like that, listen, okay?
Yep.
Because that is what I'm talking about here, and that's why these stories are just everything for me. So
Yep.
you get here, and so you were in these rooms, you were at Powerhouse, so you were already arranging events because you were doing
Right?
watch parties during 20. So is that when it really started to ramp up? Like, okay, the vision's starting to form. Okay, so now in 2020, maybe we all had some time to like
Yeah.
visualize time, whether we wanted it or not, we had it.
Yep.
So that's when that came together. And what followed that watch party? What did you glean from it? What happened from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was already doing, like you said, I joke that events are my love language, right? And I love putting on
I do
events, small,
love it.
big, everywhere in
Love it.
between, whatever it's for. I was starting to get into the network marketing world. And so hosting those parties, love
Perfect.
them, and then, like I said, that watch party was kind of my intro into the personal growth and development world.
Okay,
And
so that's
that
so
is
that's
where
where you
I
jumped into personal
yes.
development and
So,
said,
yep.
okay, it's not just spiritual, there's something more to it, like my own personhood needs to have
Yes.
some foundation. Got it? And so you followed along her journey, like with the Powerhouse, because she has a lot of offerings that help kind of.
Absolutely. Yep. And it was, like I said, there was still that thought I had to go through the journey of thinking I was going to do the mental health coaching
Oh,
and
okay, you were
you
still
know
in that space then. Okay.
yes. Yeah, I mean, it was developing, it was kind of like, okay, where is this going? I'm, taking the next step of figuring out what wasn't for me
Right.
and what was. And finally, like I said, you see one of the most beautiful things that has come out of, getting in those rooms is looking at the things that, you almost kind of, and I hesitate to use the word envy, but, or like triggered, but it's like beautifully triggered in a way. You see somebody doing
In a
something.
purposeful way.
Yes, and you see them doing what you wanna be doing, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I get it now, like,
That's what it
is
is.
being shown me because I'm supposed to be doing something." And I used to look at that as like, "Oh, they're already doing it, so
Yeah.
why would I do it too?" And it's like, "No, like, the way you do it is totally different,"
Right.
And yeah, so I realized at the first then finally in-person Powerhouse Women event that was that, like, beautiful triggering of what Lindsay was doing on that stage, and I was like, and I always have said, "Oh, I am terrified of talking in front of people." Clearly, I am
I
supposed to
know,
be
but I'm
doing
like,
I know it's
really?
hilarious, and I use
That
that as my
doesn't seem like
excuse.
the you I know. I mean,
Right, but again, I had kinda just buried that part
exactly.
of me
We're
for
so
so
different than what
long.
we think we are.
Yes.
Mm.
Yep. And yeah, and so like I started realizing, okay, I have to start making some, big scary investments in myself and my growth and where I'm going with this.
And you're not making money, so let's not hello,
Yep.
let's talk
Yep.
about the reality of that. Again, I feel like
Yeah.
I need to chat that with you because I know that some of the people that listen to my podcast we're in the same thing where our main thing is we might have worked some contract work, staying from home, but the main job was taking care of the kids and the house
Yep.
and just the family life in general. Loved it. Absolutely
Yep.
loved it. But it does make those kind of investments a little more like, how
Yep.
do I invest something that I don't have?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
I
And I think
personally didn't make personally.
yeah. And that's the thing. It's like when I started, the thing that we've been told by multiple mentors that I think we both have had pour into us
Probably.
is that when you have that like pit in your stomach feeling of like, ooh, this like almost makes me want to throw up to like make this investment, that's when you know you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And every big breakthrough and every huge step that has come in, me building this community, my, whatever I'm doing, whatever the calling is, has come after
On
being
the
part
other
of
side of that.
yes. And yes, it's terrifying, the finances right now. Like I said, not only am I stepping full-time into entrepreneurship, my husband is at the exact same time. Right now, we're literally living off of proceeds from the sale of a house, living in a rental. Everything feels completely unknown, uncertain, upheaval. Like,
Love it
it's
though.
crazy.
It is crazy, but I love it. I love that your husband is on that same journey. See, because
Yes.
mine might still be in the accountant mindset because he is also that. So
Yep.
yes, there's not that synergy, that belief system is different.
Mhm.
And so there's something wild and blessed about you both, like on this wild ride, like God will provide.
Yeah.
He says he will though, right? And
Yep.
so I just said, like, burn the boats. Like, you said this,
Yes.
you said this.
Yep.
So I'm going full belief and I'm not
Yep.
turning back. So what you got for me? What you
Exactly.
got? It's all you, dude. Like, it is all you, because you said
Yep.
it, right?
Yep.
Ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. So let's
Absolutely.
test this out. I love it that you two are doing this together.
Yep.
And so
And it does.
he's doing his, like, whatever that is that he's doing. Is he doing a similar version of something that you're doing, or is he doing his own?
No, he's more, like I said, he is like full on, he is spiritual gift to fully pour into one-on-one coaching right now.
Okay. Yeah.
He is good at what he does. And
Yeah. Oh,
like keynote speaking and things like that. So
oh,
his is a little bit different. Mine is more, like I said, the gathering the community, bringing women together, the connection part. And
inspiration and all of that.
yep,
Right.
exactly. And like I said, it kind of then morphed into that, evolved, as, one of the things that came out of the mastermind we were in is allow the community to evolve as you do. And I've watched, now I can look back and be like, yep, okay, I was actually doing that. And so it really just evolved into, like, I knew I wanted to connect women,
Mhm.
and, I thought I wanted to do it on a business networking group, but like bringing the faith as the center of it. And even that evolved like right away in knowing that I didn't want to leave out these women who were reaching out to me and saying, this community looks so awesome, but I don't have a business. Or, I really need this type of community, but I'm just a mom or something like that. Or I'm a career, I'm not an entrepreneur, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I just felt God was bringing me that message over and over. Like, this needs to be, like, everybody needs the personal growth and development, not just entrepreneurs,
But they don't know it yet, though. See, that's
Yes.
the funny part.
Yes.
They don't
Yep.
know that. They
Yep.
don't know that it's a thing.
Mhm.
Especially, like how you and I didn't know it, just staying
Yep.
home or just managing life. And I've also been in the work world as well, in the career world, where that's also not a thing. So that's interesting, because they don't know what they don't know. They just know that they're just like unsettled, but they don't know why or how to connect the dots. So I found that interesting.
Yeah.
In corporate leadership coaching, I have
Yep.
found, when I take little surveys, they're like, what is that? What
Right.
what are you talking about? Like, I'll take, polls. And so I'm sure you do resonate. They're like, well, what do you mean by that? And so
Yeah.
I'm sure your message does resonate. What's the very first thing you did in action under this new, the new group that you're putting together? Did you hold an event, or how did you do that? Or what did you do? Because you were newcomer in town. So how did you do it?
Absolutely. Yep. So, made that big investment in the program
Yep.
through the six-figure school.
Yep.
And that was the first, like, well, it was the second coaching program I did, but the first one I did invested through for network marketing specifically.
Okay.
And I realized that even though I love that world and that is part of what I do, it's not my main thing.
Yeah.
So, so I made the investment in the six-figure school through Powerhouse Women, and that was, you know, the big group coaching mentorship program.
Right.
And we just started meeting. It was like I was thinking through that I was going to, you know, start planning out how I was going to launch this, you know, community and event and whatever. And it was like, um, she was like, just start meeting.
Like
So I did.
with like peers from your church group or
Yeah,
whatever.
literally just no, literally just started sending it out. I started sending texts, started sending, and like I said, at the beginning, I was working with a business partner and we were doing a faith-based business networking group.
Oh, I
So
get it. Okay.
we were both just reaching out to everybody we could think of on social media or, you know, personal contacts, anybody who would want something like this, because, you know, I feel like, you know, Arizona is kind of an epicenter for a lot of this personal growth and development stuff.
So much.
However, if you're familiar with the area, like Scottsdale is where almost everything is held. And that's almost an hour drive for a lot of us who live on the other sides of town. So I really felt called to do something on my side of town that
Oh,
really
okay.
brought in the people who I was seeing on a daily basis and who, you know, also had big dreams and needed this community
So
around
you
them.
somehow you had drawn those, magnetized those types of bigger thinkers to you. Just maybe you met them in six-figure school, or maybe you met them at church or whatever. And see,
Yep,
again, I think
all of
that's
the above. Yep.
no. If the right people are put in your path, once you start to kind of like walk in the possibility and then the certainty of that vision,
Yeah.
the right people begin to be magnetized to your
Yeah.
orbit. They're like in
Oh,
your orbit.
absolutely. And it's literally just, you know, I mean, we met at a coffee shop. It was, you know, I think we had maybe like 15 women the first time.
That's
And
good.
I know, right? And it's funny because I have gone through that, you know, it's been almost a year now since that first thing. I then, as like I said, as it evolved and my business partner and I realized like that she really wanted to concentrate on the business networking aspect of it because that's her background as a business coach and all the things. And I really wanted to focus on the personal growth and development,
Yeah.
but faith-based. And we realized that, you know, we weren't aligned by staying together. So we split.
Okay.
And so in January of this year
Oh,
is when, is when I actually launched Live Bold Movement as it is
as
today.
your own solo
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep. And yeah, we continue, like I said, we meet at a coffee shop or we meet at you know, the library where, you know, wherever we can fit. And we consistently have about 15 to
and you don't
20.
have to pay for space, because that's always a big thing. Like my events, like, oh God, I don't want to,
Right.
like those are hefty event rental spaces and things like that. So
Yep.
it's an issue, and it factors into it.
It does. Absolutely.
Do you just do the talking, or do you bring people in, or what has it evolved to at this point?
Yeah. So at this point, it has been just me basically doing a short presentation. You know, I kind of just go on some topic that, you know, God just brings to me throughout
Love it.
the month, whatever, about, you know, again, on the whole, like boldly stepping into your calling, becoming
Yes.
more of who God created you to be. You know, the last one was on like overcoming obstacles and all that. But like the real thing is the connection, the conversations that go on within the people in the room. And every single person and I really had to take a step back because for a while there, I was like, oh, it's not really growing. You know, we're having, you know, 15, 20 some people every month, but it wasn't always the same people. So if you actually looked at the reach of it, I was like, I
Right.
had to take a step back and be like, okay, this really is reaching more people than I think. And I have to like slow down and not get ahead of myself of, you know,
Yes,
my
very
expectations,
patient.
my timeline, trust him, and just,
Yes.
you know, and then I had, you know, I looked and I just watched, you know, it's like there are just tears every single time these women are connecting on such a deep level. And they point out that like we talk about the women who aren't in the room of like bringing them up about, oh, you need to connect with this person because they've been through something similar. And, you know, it really is it's happening, you
Yes,
know,
it's
and
happening.
I was, you know, I kind of had, like I said, I have this huge vision and we are now finally starting to plan the big retreat, which is going to be the annual event
Love
if that
that.
happens. And that will be much bigger. But I think, you know, it's so important just to really feed into and look at the connections that are being made within the community while it's small right now, and just really be grateful for that. And
Oh,
just
without question, because there's a reason that it goes at the pace that it does, and like
yes.
the people that it does. Is there a prevailing like verse that guides you, like your North Star kind of verse? Like there's certain verses that some of us will just say to ourselves and go, no, every time that little fear wants to creep up, we say either this, like either a verse or a saying or whatever. What is yours? Do you have one?
Oh, 100%. It's tattooed on my wrist so that I can remember it every single day. And it's Romans 8:28 that, and we know that God works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so it's like, it's just that constant reminder of that he wastes nothing that we've gone through, good, bad, everything in between, any mistakes, any like failures, and I air quote that as
Yeah,
just
exactly.
that it's,
Failures or redirections, whatever
yes,
you want to call it.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. That it just, he uses it all to, just keep pointing you
And
to your purpose. And
exactly. So your next big thing, you're keeping this group together, but your next big thing is a retreat. So let's talk about that, and then we're going to talk about how we can find you and what other people outside of the Phoenix area how maybe they can get involved. Maybe you're going virtual on some level at some point, or do you have plans for that? What's your plan? And then we'll talk about how we can find you.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we do locally, we meet every single month, first Monday of every single month. And the vision is starting to evolve again to start recording those so that people who can't be there in person can be there virtually. We just launched memberships. So we're still in founding membership, very low cost of entry, that you can find us at liveboldmovement.com. So, and that's just where we connect. Like I said, whether you can be there in person or not, there's a lot more on there with like devotionals and a book club and
Yeah,
prayer.
so I was going to ask you, so what is the membership like? Maybe like a Facebook group where there's some virtual connections with your sisters in the group, and
No Facebook group. I wanted to do something off of social media completely. So it literally is its own
love.
network through in the web. It's liveboldmovement.com.
Mhm.
And that's where you join, and that's where everybody, membership directory, all the things. And that's
Okay.
where it really is its own little social media
Yeah,
in and
love
of
it.
itself, but it's private for the community. So, just that vulnerability that happens when we are in the room with each other can happen on there too, outside of social media where it's just more intimate
Mhm.
and so
I love
so
that.
yeah.
That is very exciting. So for tell us when your retreat is, and I know it's probably still forming, so you probably don't have that many details, but when and where, and then we'll do where we can find you, and let's
Yes,
go.
absolutely. Yep. So the retreat will be a 1-day event in Phoenix
Okay.
uh, for the first one.
Yep.
So
Yep.
starting small, it will definitely be
Absolutely.
a multiple day, multi-location thing in the future someday. But yeah, so it'll be in February of 2024. We haven't announced the specific date yet. We have a,
Gotcha.
you know, planning session coming up very soon this summer, and we will be releasing the date probably in August.
That's
Yes,
so
but February. So,
exciting. So February,
your
hey,
eye out.
that's good for
It's
the
February,
Midwesterners. February in Phoenix.
right? To get out here in Phoenix,
Okay,
absolutely.
as
And
we're
yes,
buried
that
in
one.
7 feet of snow over here. That does
Oh,
sound bad.
that is a bad word in my house. Seriously, like if somebody says that, we're like, that's the S word. We do
Yeah,
not.
see, we don't say that
No. Oh,
here. No.
yep.
Yeah, it's like PTSD, I'm sure. I'm so ready to not have that in my vernacular any longer.
Yes.
I'm so ready. So,
Yep. And then I do have a podcast as well, which again, everything is the same. It's Live Bold Movement. It podcast, the website, the Instagram, all of it. Well, Instagram is live.bold.movement. But yeah, everything's under the same umbrella. Keep it simple. So you know where to find us. And
that
yeah,
is
super excited.
fantastic. I mean, I think that is such a great like calling, because when we're seeing things on social media, it feels like a lot of them, when we're talking personal development, are geared towards maybe entrepreneurship or like business consulting or business coaching and stuff.
Yep.
And so this is just growing your spirit, and I love that, growing into the highest version of your purpose that God has planned for you, and connecting with that. And I obviously,
Yep.
I like that. I am in that same space, and I think it's valuable, because then from there God might be calling them. Here's how I see it: like, we're the
Yep.
entry people, and then they can graduate to the other people who like, oh, well, I think I do need some business coaching. Okay, well, we've got, we know some people that would be business coaches, good ones for you, and you're the connector, that
Yes.
God brings you together to connect, your people to some other people, because you've already made these connections, and you can
Yep.
speak to their validity and things like that. So
Exactly.
we're the gatekeepers.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I love that. I mean, I think it's fantastic, and that clearly you are going by feel, you are going by intuition. So I love the message today. Obviously, I resonate with it, obviously.
Yep.
And I love that, living by spirit. And I think it's really important, because in a world where loud speaking gets this loud, 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 sometimes it's the still small voice that has the answers for us, that
Yes.
quiet that has the answers. So
Absolutely.
and I embrace that. So thank you for promoting that. And I'm so glad you visited with me today.
Me
This is so
too.
great. And I know that there'll be somebody out here that this is going to hit. I
Yep.
guarantee you this is going to hit somebody. So right in the heart, because it's your time, and then Tierney's perfect example, moving all the way across the United States to get her there, because she
Yeah.
just knew. You just knew that.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your journey with us today. It was so great. And I can't wait to see what's next. And again, we'll find your Live Bold on Instagram, or bold.movement, right? On Instagram, and then the Live Bold podcast, and
Yep.
look for her event. All right. Thank you so much. You have a great day, and thanks. Keep doing what you're doing and following God's plan. It'll work out perfectly, seamlessly.
Oh, right back at you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, my friend. We'll be talking to you.
All right.